We are back on Get Up, and you saw it last night on ESPN. Let me take you through, in case you missed it, Ian Book's night for Notre Dame against Louisville, and there was some rust to be kicked off in this Week 1 game, Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah, on display is a quarterback who has not been hit in about 9 months, trying to find his way through the pocket, runs into the back of his tight end, ball goes on the ground. This is a good thing, learning experience-wise for Ian Book, that you can make these mistakes and find a way to win the football game.
That was part of a sequence in which there were fumbles on 3 consecutive plays, 2 of them by Louisville. The one that led to this, which is Book taking it in from 11 yards out.
And this was a big moment. This is a tie game with about 20 seconds to go, right at the end of the first half. Just had gotten a turnover. Good play design for the touchdown.
He had 14 carries for 93 yards on the night, and then he started throwing the ball in the second half.
Well, they started to find Claypool, who's got to be a really important member of this football team. He's got to have the big-time season that Boykin had last year. They finally got into a rhythm, and then Greeny down in the red zone, a little play fake. They hit Tremble down the seam. This is when Book had settled in and became the leader we expect him to be.
Notre Dame gets the win. Here's Brian Kelly.
He carries the weight of the world on him too much, and he tries to do a little bit too much. I think he settled down in the second half, led our football team the way he's capable of lead them, and got some touchdown passes in the second half. I think it settled him down nicely and played much better in the second half.
I want to be a leader on this team, and I want to lead these guys, week by week and keep winning games. And I feel honored to, be able to be a leader on this team. I'm really excited for this year, and like I said, just happy to be 1-0.
That was a sort of an average game by his standards for Book, but maybe a sign of things to come is that he excelled on the ground. Those 81 yards rushing were a career high for him at Notre Dame. He took it in for that score, and in the end, Week 1 for these teams, there's no preseason, just find a way to win the game, and that they did. Okay, speaking of quarterbacks, back to Sneaky Hembo now. Who was the last transfer quarterback to win a national title as the starter? I've got Feinbaum and Dan Orlovsky here. Who wants to hazard a guess?
Cam Newton.
What do you think?
Jake Coker.
Jake Coker is correct. He transferred from Florida State to Alabama in the 2015 season.
This is a stupid question.
We will see if Jalen Hurts is able to do that this year. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, he was nothing short of brilliant in his Oklahoma debut Sunday night. 508 yards of offense he produced. 6 touchdowns in a 49-31 win over Houston. Now, we know that Oklahoma has claimed the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners, and our friends in the desert now think it could very well happen again. According to Caesars Sportsbook, Tua and Trevor were runaway favorites to win the Heisman to begin the season. But that performance in Week 1 has vaulted Jalen Hurts into a 3-way tie with those 2 for co-favorites after Week 1. And so, Paul, again, you watched Jalen Hurts through his entire time there in Alabama, obviously, and basically all he did was win games. But what was your reaction to what he did on Sunday night?
I was really happy and blown away by his consistency. I mean, he was flawless. And one interesting thing about those odds, Greeny, you have Jalen Hurts is pretty much it for Oklahoma, but at Clemson and Alabama, you've got 2 different candidates for the Heisman in both backfields, at Etienne with Trevor Lawrence and Judy at Alabama. And they could siphon off votes the way things are going.
You've heard me say this a lot, that a lot of times in football, we only talk about, players understanding the offense, and they've learned this offense. Well, I think what we saw a little bit with Lincoln Riley and Jalen Hurts is he really understands the player. And you saw him use Jalen Hurts in the way that allowed him to be the best version of himself, put the array of talents on full display. And I don't know if we necessarily, listen, he was really successful at Alabama, but they truly understand what he did really well and what he didn't do, and allow the strengths to be always on display. And Lincoln Riley did that.
Jalen also had a different coordinator every year at Alabama that hurt him.
Look, he follows, obviously, Mayfield and Murray, who each won the Heisman, and then each became the first pick in the draft. And I don't think anyone expects that from Jalen Hurts. Throughout the entire time at Alabama, I never thought to myself, I'm watching an NFL quarterback at all. Did that change your mind Sunday night?
It was a step in the right direction. Am I ready to sit here and say that Jalen Hurts is an NFL quarterback right now? No, because here's the thing. The difference between like a Baker and a Kyler in comparison to him, both Baker and Kyler dominated games through the air at some point in their career. Jalen hasn't done that, where he's dominated as a passer. But again, that was a step in the right direction towards becoming part of that conversation.
Worth remembering, people weren't looking at Dak Prescott as an NFL prospect.
Sure.
Or a good one either, and he turned out
well. That's a good point. Do we have time to play the Saban quickly or no? I know we have to get on to some NFL topics here. But I so enjoyed. Oh, we have it coming up later. Sorry, we'll play the Nick Saban a little bit later for you because Saban, his response to the performance of Jalen Hurts, it tickled me one way or the other. Anyway, let me jump into the NFL here. And it's Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, who was next up. He took a lot of hits last year. Houston allowed an NFL worst 62 sacks. And we saw over the weekend the Texans pay a hefty price to bring in Laramie Tunsil to hopefully protect their franchise quarterback, keep him healthy, keep him upright, and give him a chance to be a great player. So I'm going to do a couple of time topics. Give me 1 minute on the clock. With better protection now, Deshaun Watson as an MVP candidate in the National Football League. I love it. Orlovsky, you yes or no?
Yeah, he's right on the short list now with these two moves. 2017, he comes into the NFL. Through his first 7 games, throws 19 touchdown passes. That's an NFL record. Ends up hurting his knee, doing the ACL tear. Comes back, 62 sacks last year, still throws for 26 touchdowns versus 9 picks, leads his team to the playoffs. Now, you've secured that offensive line. You've given him another weapon. He's healthy. This kid is going to be on the short list for MVP.
And no one, Paul, knows better than you what he is in the clutch, right? In big moments.
There's no question. I can't find fault. I would take the bet against that right now, just based on what I know. But Deshaun Watson is one of the gutsiest quarterbacks I have ever seen play college football, and he's looking the same in pro.
And he's got weapons. They added Kenny Stills as well around him. I think he is a sneaky, excellent pick for MVP this year. And I actually think with the moves they made over the weekend, the Texans become a sneaky good pick to possibly make a lot of noise in the AFC playoffs. Okay, next. We get our first look at Aaron Rodgers and his new-look Packers offense on Thursday against the Bears. He did not play at all in the preseason. Remember, he was going to play in that game in Winnipeg, wherever in Canada they played that game where they shortened the field to 80 yards, and they said, heck with that. So we have not seen Rodgers yet. Both he and rookie head coach Matt LaFleur have stressed the practice reps have the veteran well prepared. Here's my take, and I've been saying it for weeks, if not months, if you watch the show. A motivated Aaron Rodgers in a new creative offense, which he's never been in before, or certainly not in recent years, I think he's going to have a monster year. I'll go so far as to say I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have the best year of his career.
I feel like this should be a Call Me an Idiot segment, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, were you around in 2011?
I was there.
2011 is 4,600 yards, 45 touchdowns, 6 picks, a QBR, which is an NFL record of 122. If Aaron Rodgers does that now, we're going to be talking about him being better than Tom Brady and playing till he's 50, because I don't see that. I don't see Aaron Rodgers having the season that a lot of people are expecting it. It's not because of Rodgers. It's because of the people who are around him. His best ever? No.
You know, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time. Listening to you on the radio, I was fascinated by these hot takes. But sitting here next to you, they're even more enjoyable to tell you, you're wrong. That is not
I don't
going to
judge
happen.
these things just by numbers. I'm not talking about the numbers that he puts up. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers is going to look like he's playing offense in 2019. Which he has not looked like in a while. And he's going to be great at it. And he's going to be motivated because people have been knocking him and forgetting him. He's coming back.
Time's up.
He's going medieval on the NFL. Okay, one more topic. Browns quarterback Baker Mayfield has done a lot of talking this offseason, and so has his new teammate Odell Beckham Jr. There's a lot of hype surrounding these Cleveland Browns, and for the first time in a long time, there are high expectations in Cleveland. Remember, this is a team that hasn't won the division since 1989. Since last they won the division, they moved to Baltimore and became the Ravens. So my question for you is, are the Browns the biggest target of any team in the National Football League?
Player-wise, absolutely. Because of the people that on their team that have come out and been very outspoken and unabashed with what they're willing to say via on their own social media or interviews. Coaching-wise, I would actually argue that the Cardinals are, because coaches want to embarrass Cliff Kingsbury and say, your offense doesn't belong in our league. But player-wise, it's the Browns.
What do you think, Paul? What do you expect?
I mean, they become the Kardashians of the NFL, and I think it's absurd because I just deep down in my heart know they'll find some way to blow it all.
You think so? You're not buying.
No,
you're
I'm
not buying Baker Mayfield. You're not buying Odell.
They're all great, but don't forget, Greedy, they are the Cleveland Browns.
Myles Garrett. Yeah, this may be all new.
Listen, I've said I'm all in. I expect them to be deep into the playoffs in the AFC Championship game, led by this guy. I think Myles Garrett's going to be in the short list for MVP defensively. Odell Beckham's embarrassed and motivated, and he feels like he said it himself, was sent out to the pastures.
Just wait for Odell to find problems up there.
We'll see. I mean, look, it's hard to argue. You're right. Historically, we have always seen trouble with a lot of those guys, but I think it's going to go well. All right, as we continue, for a team that is not that far removed from a winless season, expectations for those Browns are sky high with a formula the NFL probably should be concerned about. I'll explain next.